Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's excellent to have you here as always. Thank you for watching. And today's going to be a fantastic day because we are going to derive entertainment from the suffering of others. But in all seriousness, I'm making today's video for educational purposes, and it is my sincere hope that by discussing this incident here today, we can prevent similar accidents from happening in the future. We've seen a documented massive increase in firearms ownership across the United States in the last couple of years, for various reasons that we've documented in great detail up to this point. But a small percentage of those people have a solid foundation in safe weapons handling, and an even smaller percentage are choosing to attend professional firearms training courses, which is, I think, a recipe for more things like this to happen. So it is my hope that by raising my hand and using this as an example of what not to do, we can hopefully save someone, somewhere, some pain and suffering. That said, before we get into it, I got to keep the lights on, so we'll be right back after we hear a word from today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by Ace Tac Gear. Ace Tac does all the nylon things. So if you're looking to get into a plate carrier or chest rig, or you're just trying to augment the gear that you already have with some expansion pouches, here are your guys. Recently, I did a video on their medical kit, which is a collaboration with Everlit Survival. I'll have that video as well as the minimalist chest rig video I recently did from Ace Tac listed below for you to run down. What's more is both those companies offer VSO viewers a discount. So if you use my code listed over at the affiliates page, you can save 10%. Special thanks to them for making this video possible. This is the post that we're going to be using as reference material for today's video. I know what you're all thinking. Holy run-on sentence. I have redacted the names of all those involved to protect their identities, and I won't be including any of the x-ray photos because they are bad. And if you want to see them, you can find them over at my Instagram page. The other thing that I want to say is while there is likely a correlation between illiteracy and negligent discharge rate, I would say that it is not necessarily a strong one, because I know of a man who is absolutely unable to read and write and is better with guns than I am. Moving past that, we're going to dub the author of this word salad Daryl, and deciphering Daryl's foreign dialect here, we find that he was out hunting and had a slip, trip, and a fall, and violated several of the firearm safety rules and ended up with a negligent discharge that damaged his foot. By itself, that sounds bad and something that we can learn something from, but what really irks me is he goes on to try to blame the firearms manufacturer, which is absolutely unacceptable. So what we're going to do here today, first off, is do a review of the 4 rules of firearm safety. These 4 rules are often misquoted, and as a result, some find them to be incomplete, but I assure you that proper quotation of the 4 rules of firearm safety shows you that they cover all situations that you could possibly find yourself in with a firearm, and words have meaning. So the first rule is treat all guns as though they're loaded all the time. You might say, oh my gosh, Kurt, well, how on earth am I going to clean my firearm if I treat it like it's loaded? Again, words have meaning. When the firearm is disassembled, it is components. It is no longer a functioning firearm. So clean away there, sir. One of the things that is very interesting about the 4 rules of firearm safety is that there is some redundancy and overlap in each of the rules. And usually when we see an accident that results in injuries, we have a multi-rule violation. So you want to go for 100% all the time. However, usually you violate one of the rules and nobody gets hurt. You violate more than one of the rules and people get hurt, or the potential of people getting hurt goes way, way up. So for rule 2, we always say, never let your muzzle cover anything that you are not willing to destroy. Rule number 3 is that you keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on target and you have made the decision to shoot. And then rule 4 is know your target, its foreground, and its background. So looking at this list, which of the 4 rules did Daryl violate that resulted in his injuries? I think the first one that we should start with is rule 4, because it's the least applicable. This has to do with the target, what's in front of it, and what's behind it, right? So know your target as in the composition of your target so that you can pair the proper ammunition to it. For instance, the unwritten rule is that you never shoot ball 50 BMG ammunition at steel targets. You shoot armor-piercing ammunition at it. Your goal is to defeat that steel target. Every other situation is dangerous and you shouldn't do it. Likewise, you don't put fragile things in front of targets because the bullet has to get to the target. There's a potential that the bullet could strike something important on the way there. And likewise, you don't take shots at targets that have things that you care about in the background because you might miss or you might get a pass through the target and then strike those important things. Moving on to rule number 1, treat all guns as though they're loaded all the time. This speaks to a healthy respect for the dangerous nature of firearms and their potential damage output by saying, take this firearm, orient it in a 3-dimensional space in such a way as to mitigate the potential unintended damage output should something occur. And it is clear to me that all things considered with the individual factors of this incident, that there's a violation here. So let's stack it up like this. We have a hunting shotgun in an active hunting environment, and that shotgun was there for duck hunting. So that means that it's got a long barrel. It is outdoors, so there is no considerations for overhead. And we have a lower extremity injury, which means that that firearm had to be grounded when it discharged. In an outdoor environment, with a hunting shotgun, grounding the shotgun is not the safe condition. It is up in the air. And this is a case-by-case basis. It depends on the weapon, depends on the scenario, depends on the environment. I like to use the example of the Navy SEAL. The Navy SEAL in a rigid hull inflatable should not use weapon down as their safe orientation, because if they were to have a discharge, whatever previous job they held in that boat, they have now been demoted to chief bailing officer. Likewise, if said Navy SEAL is in a helicopter, weapon up is not the appropriate orientation because all the things that hold him and all of his buddies up in the air are above their head. A negligent discharge risks damage to that critical infrastructure and is just not a good thing. So it depends on the situation at hand, how you orient your gun in a safe manner. Likewise, there's a mention in the post of the use of the safety, and the unwritten rule is that a safety is a redundant feature that is not to be trusted. Even though the Stoeger shotgun in question uses a crosspin safety, which is probably the most reliable type of safety. It's literally a piece of metal that inserts into the firing mechanism of the gun, preventing it from happening. But there are some redundancies here with Rule 2 and Rule 3, as in don't point the gun at your foot and keep your finger off the trigger. I do not believe that the safety was engaged from my professional experience, but even if it was, at this point, that whole Rule 1, treating all guns as though they're loaded all the time, also goes to the inherent knowledge of knowing that guns can indeed go off when they have a substantial shock to them. And the old moniker is that, shotguns are drop safe. No guns are drop safe, period. We're talking about a piece of metal that meets another piece of metal at an angle. And the purpose of that is to sit under spring tension until an input is given. If a substantial shock is given to the gun in the proper orientation, then it can indeed cause those two pieces of metal to dissolve their relationship, resulting in a discharge. We've seen this as most prolifically as the 320 series of pistols, where they went through that whole drop it on its heel thing and it goes off. So the idea of the gun is on safe so I can therefore point it at my foot is not acceptable. Now, having thoroughly beaten that horse to death, I would like to close today with a discussion on inappropriate shifting of blame from one's own negligent conduct to that of the firearms manufacturer. Sir, whoever you are, I'm here to tell you today that this is 100% on you. The firearms manufacturer is not at fault here. You mishandled that firearm. And in treating it like a toy, you injured yourself. And what you are doing by insinuating that this is somehow the fault of the firearms manufacturer is not only un-American, but it is unacceptable. And you should just go ahead and pack all your stuff up and move out to California, because that's exactly the type of people that we find out there. Even if we accept the premise that this is a result of a non-drop safe situation, which also I will add, I find unlikely. I think it's much more likely that you were standing there with your booger hook on the bang switch when you decided to slip in the mud, probably with the barrel propped up on your boot, considering there are literally barrel marks on your boots. But in this case, we're just going to set the premise that the stars aligned, the firing mechanism of the firearm failed, and a magical fairy moved the shotgun into orientation with your foot. If you're driving your vehicle down the road and you hit a pole and crack your radiator, and then continue to drive on down the road and wonder why your engine blew up because the radiator leaked all the fluid out of it, well, that's not on the manufacturer of the radiator or the vehicle whatsoever. That's on the operator error. It is baseline knowledge, if not instinct, to not point a firearm at a part of your body that you would like to hang on to and hit it off of things. Listen, I hope this incident doesn't make you quit, and I hope that you continue your Second Amendment journey. However, I think it's clear to everyone involved that you don't know as much about guns as you think you do. So it is my hope that you will seek out some professional firearms training and make a speedy recovery. The truth of the matter is, you made a mistake. And instead of pointing fingers at other people, you need to man up, accept it, and learn the lessons from it, and hopefully everybody else has as well. That said, one of the other things that was mentioned in the comments section was somebody was like, this is why I always wear steel-toed boots when I go out hunting. If you guys want to see a video of what happens when you discharge a 3.5-inch Magnum into a steel-toed boot, then make today's video popular, and we'll go out and ruin a set of steel-toed boots specifically for you all. Thank you for tuning in to the VSO Gun Channel. I hope that you learned something here today, and be safe, stay dangerous out there, and hopefully we'll see you on another video here pretty soon. I suppose somewhere in here I should mention that I have no affiliation with Stoeger whatsoever. And if they want to send me one of their shotguns to see if it does have a drop safe problem, then my door is open.